What animated film traumatized you as a child? I sincerely believe Brave Little Toaster created a lot of hoarders. The first time I realized children could die was from the scene in Baltimore where coffins are being built for the children who will die if the sled dogs don't bring the medicine in time. Only half animated, but the scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit where Christopher Lloyd gets run over by the steamroller. Edit. Wow, thanks for the love everyone, glad I'm not alone on this one. Pinocchio, the sheer chaos of that mess got to me. Then boys turned into donkeys and sobbed for their mother and I lost it. That and Dumbo. Early Disney was dark. The Land Before Time, Littlefoot's mom dying has instilled a fear in me, a fear born of the fact that one day, someday, my own mom will die. Jan Svankmajer's Alice, which is a dark, surrealist stop-motion version of Alice in Wonderland and really not a children's movie at all. Still, a local TV channel decided to air it as that, so I watched that all alone on a Sunday morning and I've never fully recovered. I was heartbroken by the dog pound scenes in Lady and the Tramp, refused to watch it. Fast forward to my little nephew, who was crying for days because he thought that the cats in the Aristocats wouldn't ever get back home. Spirited Away, the parents turning into pigs and No Face gave me nightmares for weeks. I was 5 when I first saw it. Nowadays it's one of my favorite movies though. Didn't traumatize me, but I knew it was special. The Brave Little Toaster. Edit. I had no idea so many people have seen this. To this day it feels like it escaped on accident, yet somehow my parents obtained a copy that isn't supposed to exist. Lol. Chitty chitty bang bang ... all good and happy until the child catcher shows up. Alice in Wonderland when the walrus ate the baby clams. The whole movie was weird. Bambi's mom dying. Dumbo getting made fun of and being taken away from his mom. Heffalumps and woozles on Winnie the Pooh and Disney's Halloween treat ... which I really did like. Oh, and The Lion, The Witch and the Wardrobe. 1971, fucking scary. Treasure Planet when a character fell into the black hole. My brother was a huge astronomy nerd. Still is, and explained that black holes tear you apart by the atoms, and that if a black hole appeared near our galaxy or whatever, we would be done. Little Nemo, I've mostly blocked it from my mind now, but I have vague memories of a kid fleeing a shapeless black ooze as it consumes his home, this being after he released it. Somehow, I've thought about rewatching it as an adult to see how it holds up. Edit. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one who experienced this particular trauma. Thanks you all for sharing. Also, I have apparently forgotten a lot of this movie cause you all are referencing stuff that I do not remember one bit. I'm seriously considering giving it a watch soon now. Dark Crystal, mid-40s female and I still can't watch it to this day. Can't get more than 10 minutes in and I've tried many times. Fuck those damn Muppets. Added, to the person who said it wasn't animated, it was animatronics, which is way fucking worse. Thanks for the upvotes. You helped me reach over 60k in karma. Disney's Snow White, the huntsman's murder face, the freaky forest, the Queen to Hag transformation scene, the Queen falling to her death at the end, and presumably also crushed by a boulder. Akira, parents owned a video rental store when I was a kid and if no one rented the movie, I was allowed to watch whatever I liked, except R-rated stuff. Parents didn't really understand anime, so when Akira came out, they put it in the animated section next to Land Before Time and Brave Little Toaster. Guy on the cover looked cool. I took it home and watched it. There was 8-year-old me watching Tetsuo having psychotic hallucinations of his guts pouring out. I had a lot of nightmares over that scene, I should say. Though that it wasn't really traumatizing since I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever watched. James and the Giant Peach was fucking nightmare fuel. It's still pretty disturbing to me today. It's honestly beyond me why that was ever marketed as a kids movie. Also, Spirited Away, I remember the scene where everyone turns into pigs, freaking me out more than I think anything ever had at that point. 9. That movie is still my favorite animated film, but the thought of one day rendering humans useless and killing all of them scared my undeveloped brain. I recently watched it again and realized how dark it was. The humans in this film had to create a machine that would suck their own soul and put it into a rag doll just so they could survive. Even though at the end, Nine and his friends survived, there was no one else. It was just them in a dark and lonely war-torn Earth. All there was just ruined buildings, machines that could rip you apart, and poisonous gas that still lingered on. Makes you wonder why humans want to create a super smart AI. The Fox and the Hound. I've always loved animals, still do, and I was like 6 or 7 the first time I saw it. I loved it at first, but once they grow up and shit starts getting real, I was fucking horrified. It made me cry and irked. My parents turned it off before it was over because I was so upset. To this day, I flat out refuse to watch it. Not only that, but I purposely avoid movies or shows where I know there is going to be something sad with animals in it. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Ejected it when they started throwing fruit and hid it behind a bookcase to never be seen again. Lol. I did eventually watch and love it as a teenager when I got really into musicals. For me, it wasn't any particular movie, but it was in most, if not all, the Disney movies we had on DVD. That godforsaken THX logo is why I hadn't watched The Emperor's New Groove since only like a year or two ago. Speaking of which, I have this memory of watching Disney Channel and Toy Story 2 came on, with the THX logo showing up first. Is this an error? Did all airings of Toy Story 2 have this? Almost all the Don Bluth films, absolutely loved them, still do, but they were scary as F to me as a kid. Don Bluth was a genius who knew you could treat children with respect and you could trust them to be able to understand difficult concepts. You wouldn't see that level of professional excellence until a decade later in 1992 with Batman, the animated series. When I was probably 6 or 7, the local video store misplaced a hentai movie in the kids animated section. The cover looked cool because there were like guns and tanks or some shit on it. My mom didn't check that it was okay, so we just rented. I got it home and man, oh man, was I so scared I was going to get in trouble. I told my mom and she just took it away. I was super upset for a while about it. My family is very religious, so naturally I thought God hated me for a solid month. Needless to say, I am now a full-fledged pervert. Thanks family video. A German film. The video store worker had not seen it, so put it in the kids section. It is not a kids film. There is animated cat sex scene, hanging cats from the ceiling in a dream sequence. Young me slept bad for a while after. The Dark Crystal. I only recently discovered what it was called and none of my friends have any idea what I'm referring to when I try and describe it to them. Maybe it was because I distinctly remember watching it while I was really sick, but that movie scared the shit out of me. I've honestly seen horror movies that frightened me less as a child. Such an ominous combination of visuals and soundtrack. How on earth was that a children's film? James and the Giant Peach, 1996, legitimately made me throw up as a kid. Something about the art style and animation just made me so sick and uncomfortable, and I don't know why. It took me almost a decade to watch another claymation movie. The Magic Roundabout movie, or Dougal for American audiences. What in God's name was that movie? The animation was terrifying. Early was CGI. The villain was a creepy-ass Jack in the Box. The plot was bizarre, the characters were strange, and I have a feeling I watched it when I was a little too old for the intended audience, but still wasn't old enough to laugh and make fun of it for being a bad movie, so I was constantly in the weird movie Uncanny Valley. I can't think of any animated movies that really traumatized, but Large Marge scared me when I was 4. The demon children things from The Passion of the Christ terrified me when I was 6 or 7, but the movie wasn't animated and I'm not sure if that was animation or makeup or something. The Last Unicorn. I haven't watched it since I was maybe 7. I can only recall that one scene. There was a shadow of a witch, I think, and she was brutally murdered by birds. I am not even sure if I remember that correctly. Also, the weird-ass swamp boy from Kim Possible scared me shitless. My mom was with me when the episode came up and when I was incredibly scared after she tried to make me my favorite pasta dish to cheer me up. It didn't work though. The Seventh Brother, animated children's movie from the early 90s that featured such nightmare fuel as a metamorphosis in which a bunny morphed into a terrifying, hellish falcon monster, a musical number featuring bunnies running in a circle and tripping over a log that turned out to be a giant hawk's talons, a family of rabbits and one puppy running for their lives across an open field while being hunted by said hawk. No comedic relief. Only character with the happy ending was the puppy. Once Upon a Forest. I absolutely loved this film as a child, but I would cry every time I watched it. It's about humans accidentally caused a gas leak that enters the woods and how all the little creatures are affected by it. Basically, 3 little woodland creatures have to find a particular flower to help save their little friend who inhaled some of the gas whilst trying to save her parents who unfortunately died, and the little creatures are far too young themselves, having lost their parents, and have to go through the harsh realities of nature when they face their journey. But there is a happy ending. The gas didn't actually kill all the parents, some were just in fact knocked out, but it taught me a lot as a child about how we affect nature, even in the smallest of ways. I love animals, so it was a great film to watch as a child, but goddamn, there is one song in it that I still can't listen to as an adult. It breaks my heart. The Heffalump and Woozles scene from Winnie Pooh. I was a big Winnie Pooh fan. Even our dog got named after Winnie, but that scene gave me nightmares and I was done with Winnie the Pooh. I still get creeped out watching it today. Pinocchio. Evil creepy guy kidnaps children, lures them into a trap with a fun time, then turns them into donkeys while they're crying for their mama and sells them into slavery. Shudders. I still can't watch that movie. Just Me and My Dad from the Little Critters animated/kids book series, 1977. Those little monsters creeped me the fuck out, so much so that my brain conjured up a sleep paralysis demon based on those hideous bastards. His name was Biggest Mean. He was purple, super tall and menacing, had little horns coming out of its head, and loved to chase me around, though he wouldn't eat me because who else would he torture? He also had a fear of big trucks, like semis, which is ironically something I'm kinda scared of IRL. He doesn't show up in my adult life, but he terrorized the living shit out of me when I was a kid. It's not a film but a kids show from back in the day called Hee Haw. At the end of every episode, this donkey would open his mouth and credits would roll through superimposed on this donkey's gaping jaw. To this day, horses and donkeys trigger this fear-like response that I can't shake. I've grown up around animals. Most of the animals that I'm around, I can get a read on them. For horses and donkeys, I can't read them at all, and I think it all stems from this show, which elicited a real fear response as a kid. I loved the show as a kid but would quickly shut the TV off just right before the credits because I didn't want to see this donkey's mouth open up. Heavy Metal. I watched that movie on VHS back in the day. I was around 7 or 8. Yo, fucked me up good. I was definitely not supposed to watch that movie at all. Tits. zombies, death and fucking junky aliens. What else could a kid want in a cartoon? Aging myself here, but told Yeller, another Disney, they shot the dog, you know, the one I fell in love with and decided I wanted to have as my first legit pet. They shot it. I know, rabies, terrible. They shot the dog, killed him. I'm crying now just typing it, and I saw it prob 45 years ago. Akira. Had no clue what I was watching, but at that time my only exposure to cartoons was Saturday morning shows like Batman the Animated Series. Also, the original Street Fighter animated movie had its own awakening moments. Raggedy Ann and Andy: A Musical Adventure. There was some creature made of melted taffy or something, and Raggedy Ann and Andy are on a raft, and the creature wants to eat them. It was just this melty form with a deep scary voice. It scared the hell out of 8-year-old me. The Mouse and His Child. If you, like I, saw this fever dream, existential nightmare as a young 80s kid, I wonder how any of us made it to the 90s. And why was every creepy animated film about rodents, Rats of Nime, Devil and Daniel Mouse, etc.? Dot and the Kangaroo, an Australian live-action, animated hybrid feature from the 1970s. They had it for years on VHS and showed it to me as a small child. It has a song about an Aboriginal mythological creature called the Bunyip. I still remember how terrified I was when I first saw it 25 odd years later. https://b/wt/60. Anastasia. I hated the creepy villain and his creepy villain songs and visuals. I tried to watch it again recently and still couldn't because it brought back all those uncomfortable childhood emotions. Also, this isn't technically animated, but The Nightmare Before Christmas, it terrified me and I never understood the hype. The first Transformers movie, like the 80s animated one, the toy manufacturer had decided that they wanted to introduce a new line and a new generation of toys, so they thought they should just unceremoniously kill them all off in the first 5 minutes of their first movie. I was like 7-8 when suddenly, with no dialogue and barely any setup, that Decepticons invaded the Autobot space and massacred characters I had grown up with to a metallic synthesizer theme that left me fucking scarred. Fantastic Planet, animated, not for kids. Don't know why my parents encouraged me to watch it with them. If I see a still frame from that movie, it renders my brain immobile for hours. Any moving animation, and it stays. It's been 15 years and my parents apparently rewatched it last month and were horrified they'd shown it to me. It's banned in our house now, thank goodness. There is this weird claymation thing about the story of Passover that played in the kids' room of a siddur I attended when I was a child. The animation was choppy and characters moved and stretched in really weird ways. The narrator had this super deep voice that was really ominous. 30 years later, it's still burned in my mind. Watership Down, trippy, tragic, brutal. When I watched this as a kid, I really liked the movie, although it was way too mature content for a kid. At least for me it was. The ending scene really hit me, when the rabbit saw his dead ghost friend hopping in the fields. I think my friend's mother didn't really know what she just showed us, lol. Not a film but a TV series. The Animals of Farthingwood. Loved and reread the book series several times and watched the TV show when it came out in the 90s. When it was released on DVD a few years ago, I had to get it. My husband had never seen it, so we watched it together. Halfway through the first season he turned to me and said, with wide eyes, "This was a kids show?" Exclamation mark. I have to admit, as an adult, all the stuff that flew over my head as a kid hit me in the feels as an adult. At least one of the group died or was hurt in almost every episode. It pulled no punches and showing how harsh nature can be. and how unthinkingly cruel humans can be, and how kind in a couple of cases. And this was a 90s kids show, mind you. I also loved The Lion King as a kid and went to see the new version when it came out. My God, the stampede scene was hard enough to deal with as an animated thing. Watching it happen in reality traumatized me all over again. Who said cats can't show emotion? Watership Down, the animated 1978 version. I think my mom thought it was a fun family movie with all the cute bunnies, back in the days of VHS rentals. That was before poor Violet was violently killed by a hawk. I was 11 when I saw it, and whenever I see bunnies and hawks, I think of that movie.